Oh, it's Get Down Saturday Night.
You don't like dancing? Jesus. Why? Why wasn't this Lex goddamn Luthor? Oh!
Maybe we should just start every episode with a similar rant to that. Like the music comes up and it's just your voice going, and another thing.
Back in my day, we used to love our Lex Luthors. They were men, not these boys. Not these boys. They were bald, but one wore a toupee, and that was strange. And that was always my problem with the Gene Hackman Lex Luthor, because I mean he was corny as hell, but at least he sort of had a sort of dignity to him, you know?
No, anyway, so we should say something like, hello, and welcome to the Todd and Taylor Show. I'm Todd A.
It's very morose.
But I think you should say it, because I'm going to say the 80s one.
Reading at a funeral.
Okay, so you say that.
Do I start with, in a world where, no. That sounds way more
I'm trying to give you like a clean break, so I'm not trying not to react to anything.
All right.
Okay.
Welcome to the Todd and Taylor Show. I'm Taylor Trask.
And I'm Todd A.
And it is season 3, everybody. It is the start of a new day, a new season. This is episode 1 of season 3, right?
And it's the start of their.network.
Yes! The first episode of the Todd and Taylor Show on their.network. You're listening to this now, and there is a thing, right? So it's SoundCloud. We changed it over. We've kind of split everything up into separate episodes on RSS feed. So if you're listening on iTunes or Pocket Cast or Google Play, wherever you're finding this is its own show now. And we're going to continue to debut other shows or hint at other shows through this, but we're done sort of pushing everything through the same feed unless you're listening on SoundCloud. Then everything's still, still there.
So why did we do that, Taylor? Do you have a succinct answer there, or would you like me to attempt to do that?
I have unanswered. I don't know if it's succinct. We did it because we're going to be launching a bunch of shows, right? So we've got this one. We got Wednesday in Westeros. We have several more that we'll be talking about soon. And if you look at other networks like KCRW or Smodcast or what's the other one that you like a lot that I just named?
I can name the Maximum Fun.
Maximum Fun.
Fighting in the War Room Network. I listened to the Trump Cast, which you turned me onto, which is on the Panoply Network.
Yes.
All
of these, though, are different, separate shows. So you can subscribe to one or all of them, and they are different, little artworks in your feed.
And what Taylor means is all of their network shows are different shows.
Yes.
We are also different from Maximum Fun and Panoply and stuff like that. But we're saying within our network, there are different shows that you can subscribe to separately.
Exactly. So go out there, jump on their.network and just see what we've got brewing. New stuff will be added all the time. And hey, at some point, hopefully, we'll have a video show or two for you to check out as well. So that's exciting.
Yeah. So to clarify, that is there, as in the place, THERE.network, not .net, not .com, not .us, .network. So just type that into your browser. We promise it will work.
Because we live in the future and we're cool like that. And
yes. And we think this is a pretty good idea because basically we really like SoundCloud. We said this in our last episode with the close of season 2, which is if you follow us on SoundCloud, you'll get every single episode that their network creates. But say you just don't like the sound of my voice, then you can go to their.network, find the shows that I'm not on, and subscribe to them independently on iTunes or Google Play or Podbay or Podbean or Stitcher or anything else that you like. So I think that's pretty cool because we ourselves got with our we do a show during the Game of Thrones season called Wednesday in Westeros, and this season we had some guests on a couple of episodes, and then we brought some more guests into the Todd and Taylor Show later this summer, and we just love the experience of listening to other people talk.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We were kind of thinking about this, like if we get other people involved in doing their own podcasts and stuff, how's it going to work? Is this all? We didn't want it to all go out as the Todd and Taylor Show, like we, are the ones responsible for it. We wanted everyone to have their own little playground. So,
and to be honest, I'm a little selfish. I want to listen as a fan as well. I want to be a fan and I want to be on it. So it's like, I want my cake and eat it too, Todd. I want my.
Yeah.
Ice cream cake made up of.
Yeah. I have I think that probably sums up. Taylor and I have done. We like putting our podcasting chats together into seasons, and I like it too because they feel kind of seasonal. So we started with these experimental episodes where we had a lot of technical problems and we had some weird episode naming problems and numbering convention things. It was like every time we made a plan, it just got shot to hell. Yep. So we called that season 0, zipped it all up, and decided we're going to start over with season 1.
Really works now, because if you go back to season 0, like it's kind of like we're figuring the show out, but it all sort of weirdly fits together too. It's like it is of a piece.
I agree. So, and again, if you follow us on SoundCloud, you can just go to the playlist section and pull up our seasons. So this is actually our 3rd season. And what I was saying, what I was going to say was it does feel seasonal to me, because there was sort of like there was kind of a gap, at least in my mind, between season 0 and season 1. And when we started season 1, we said we're going to try to focus on one topic per episode. We're not going to do all this preamble and stuff. And so that we had these really great lengthy discussions. And then I feel like we started Wednesday in Westeros, and then we started the Todd and Taylor Show season 2, and we kind of had there's sort of a different feel to our conversations, I think. Yeah. And I think we're going to find the same thing.
I was a lot angrier back then. I was a lot more bitter.
It was all it was just all conspiracy theory.
That's right. I was in my Alex Jones phase at that point. Yeah. Just, you can go back and listen to season 2 and you'll hear it. Very obvious.
You were so bent out of shape about Comic-Con and other pressing issues that we discussed.
That's right.
So that's probably the preamble to this episode. I guess we should just jump in.
Yeah. And this week's, we try to focus on different topics. If you're new to the Todd and Taylor Show, we try to focus on different topics or different kind of evergreen content, as it were. And you and I were chatting earlier this week, and we kind of just decided you've seen a show in full on Netflix. I've seen a show in full on Netflix. Neither of us have seen that show really, the opposite show. So let's just each talk about the show we've seen.
Sure. And again, if you're new to this, Taylor and I love talking about the whole Netflix model of things. Yeah. I think our Stranger Things episode from season 2 is a great way to get into that discussion, like of, how do you release a show or whatever. Yeah. So, and by the way, Netflix is killing it right now.
They're basically unstoppable.
Week there are new shows that I'm just like, I literally don't have time to watch. I still haven't watched The Get Down. There's this show called Easy that I want to see now. Yeah. This Netflix original movie called Ark that I'm really, really interested in, which is all this crazy time travel stuff that's got to appeal to you.
Yep. Netflix has become the Image Comics of TV.
I know. And the Amanda Knox documentary, I'm really excited about all this stuff. So last Friday night, I didn't have anything going on. And in my brain, I was thinking, this is a great night to start Luke Cage, because I cannot watch more than 2 or 3 episodes. Like there's just I was so tired, and I was like, there's physically no way for me to binge this. And during our Stranger Things discussion, Taylor and I talked about how it worked so well kind of as a mini series. Like if you could watch 2 episodes a night. So I may have just watched 2 episodes on Friday night, but possibly 3, because I started pretty early. I started at like 6 p.m. or something, and but anyway, I was so into this show. I can't say it was like from the opening moment, but I was into it right away, and then Saturday did the same thing where I watched like 3 episodes. However it worked, I ended up watching it over like 4 or 5 days. I never at one time sat down and just binged it.
Was that because you didn't have time, or because it was too heavy to do all in one big shot?
Good question. And I think, it's we might as well just jump into some of that right now, which is, I think, one thing is I was being very conscious of it, which was with Jessica Jones and Stranger Things. It was like impossible for me to stop watching it. And I binged it in 2 days. But I wished I I pushed it, so I was sort of consciously going into Luke Cage like, remember, you think you didn't enjoy Stranger Things as much as you should have, so spread this out.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I do think there's some sort of plot issues. I won't say they're not like problems, but it's just the way it's structured that. Like I noticed last night, I had one episode left to watch, but I ended up going back and watching almost all of the penultimate episode because I needed to catch myself up on it, and I knew there were just moments where like my eyes weren't on the screen and something super significant had happened. So, does that answer your question? I think.
Yeah.
So part of it was the conscious effort, and part of it is just intrinsic to the story that Luke Cage is telling. But I definitely would say, like, if anyone's getting into it, watch 2 episodes a night. Like, it's it's not a show that demands to be binged. And I feel like when I watch Jessica Jones, it's sort of like, when with some of these shows, they hit this swing around like the 8th episode or even before, maybe like 6th episode, 7th and 8th for sure, where you're going like, you're just sort of faded out on it.
Yeah.
And so then significant stuff happens after that, and you have to think, well, am I going to go back and rewatch these 3 hours that I was kind of tuning in and out of?
Yeah. Well, I'm someone who has not watched Luke Cage except for the first 2 episodes. I'd seen the first 10 to 15 minutes out of curiosity and sort of had stopped because I think it was just too busy. You and I chatted, and then another friend of ours, Drew, mentioned on Facebook, he's like, oh my God, it's great. So that provoked me to actually watch episode 1 and 2, and we'll get to my thoughts in a minute for those at home. But is this in comparing to Jessica Jones? We actually did a podcast about Jessica Jones, and one of the chief complaints was, I think from both of us, it felt like it was 2 to 3 episodes too long. Like if they had cut a couple and it would have felt completely tight. Did this show have that problem?
My answer is a very conditional sort of.
Okay.
So you and I talked when we were talking about recording this podcast a couple days ago. I sort of said this. I don't know why I just explained that to a podcast listening audience, but Taylor and I it's like I'm just saying, hey, Taylor, you heard this before. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, Jessica Jones to me lacks, like, as emotionally invested as we got into those characters in Jessica Jones. It's still in my memory. I don't remember any origin story to it, and I lacked this background, especially for having that many episodes of Jessica Jones. It felt like one of our complaints at the time was it felt like there was like a little mini arc with her character and what's his name? I keep wanting to call him Purple Man.
Kilgrave.
And then it was like that arc kind of hit its natural end, and then they literally repeated the same arc where like the characters did exactly the same thing. Like she went back to him and and it was just felt like, are you just wasting time?
It felt like in the writer's room there was a lot of competition for which idea would be sort of that idea, and there's like, we'll do them both, and then just like that kind of had that mode of like, all right, you guys, we'll do yours and we'll do John's too, and then they will both be in there.
And part of that, I guess, is adapting this new form of a Netflix series where you don't know how many episodes you really need, and they wrote it like it was going to be.
No. I'm not going to buy that. This kind of TV has been around for 10 years at minimum now. Like we've seen entire seasons, like going all the way back to The Sopranos, Carnival, these bingeable shows. There's kind of a rhythm of what works and doesn't work in these shows. I'll even throw you in The Prisoner from AMC from like 6 years ago, which is like Ian McKellen and Jim Caviezel. Gandalf and Jesus have fun, as I like to call it. it was, I think, like 6 episodes. It was meant to be a miniseries. It worked perfectly in that context. And I think it would have just fallen off the rails if they tried to add one more bit of story to it. Like, it was exactly as long as it needed to be. So I feel like these writers know what works and doesn't in this context. Like, we've seen, enough stuff. Come on.
And I think we both agree, like, Stranger Things was the perfect amount of episodes.
Yeah. Oh God.
It was 8.
Yep.
But
wait, was it 8? It was really 8?
It's just 8.
Oh my God, I forgot all about that.
So the reason I bring that up with this show specifically and Jessica Jones and say, like, maybe it's just that old model is because to me, I know this is compressed a little in recent years, with the rise of digital shows, but basically, like, a TV season used to be 23 to 26 episodes. I'm not sure if they still do that on broadcast television, but I think of the model Marvel as, like, they're all kind of following behind Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter. And so if you look at it that way, Jessica Jones was 13 episodes. And so's Luke Cage. And so to me, that's where it falls off. Like, I wish they would say, hey, we got a story for Luke Cage, and it's going to take us 5 episodes to tell it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Or they go, hey, we got 7 episodes this time, and that's it.
I'll be honest, that's the reason I never really got into Daredevil season 2, is just because I'm like, man,
it's such a commitment, right?
It's like, I enjoyed the first one, but I'm like, I just don't have the time to delve into, and people have told me it's great. So it's like, I mean, I'm sure there's nothing, but I'm just like, at the same time, did that show need
13 more episodes, right?
We live in a world where you don't have, you're totally right. We don't have, it's not like they're selling inventory for advertising. They literally exist in a medium on Netflix or Hulu or wherever these streaming services are. This is a medium where it could be one 4-hour movie. It could be 5 20-minute episodes. Like, it really doesn't matter. I think there needs to be a bit more discipline on the side of the creators to really think through that and map out, and maybe they do, and maybe I'm just, they're yelling at me right now, but it's like,
we're specifically, I mean, if you look at what we're comparing and contrasting, Stranger Things is a totally independent entity that Netflix produced that has no tie into anything. And the Marvel universe is, like, you can imagine, like, there's, they've probably got a lot of the same production people that are working on these, and they are tying it into comic book releases and seasons and things like that. And so I get that they have a lot going on, but I still wish, back to one of our earliest podcasts, I quoted John Layman, who writes the comic book Chew, as saying he wished the big 2 comic book publishers would go a little bit crazier and stop worrying about, like, keeping everything in the universe. And he was saying, I would love to, read a 6-issue arc of Captain America riding a dinosaur. And that's totally what I want, not only in the comic books, but also in the television and movies. Like, we don't need these giant unified universes where the same Batman is in every movie and it ties into the Suicide Squad and the Superman movie. And it's like, dude, like, if you have consistently good characters and tell good stories, they can all operate independently. They can sometimes join up. It's cool, like, do it like that. So that's kind of where I am with the TV series. Back to your question about, does it sort of fail like Jessica Jones? I don't think so, because so, for example, I started watching the Daredevil series, and it starts, at least the very first episode, way back, like it's going to retell the origin story. And I'm just sick of origin stories. And I gave up, like, right in the middle of that origin story. Like, I was just like, nah, can't deal with it. And I never went back to Daredevil, not because of that, but, I'm just saying, like, it just happens to start that way. Jessica Jones and Luke Cage start, like, in the middle of things. Jessica Jones I love because it really works as a detective show, and it's like, once the main, problem happens, she has to put all her detective skills to use to kind of solve what's going on in her own life. Luke Cage just starts in the middle of things. You and I talked a little bit about this, like, we were trying to figure out the timeline of when it happens, and we found out, like, it's basically at the same time as Daredevil season 2 and after Jessica Jones. And we know this because Claire, played by Rosario Dawson, appears in Daredevil season 2 with a cut on her head, which is a cut she receives in Luke Cage. And I know that it happens after Jessica Jones because I read an article that said that.
That was one of my, okay, let me just jump in real quick.
But it's weird. I agree. So let's talk about that.
Let me jump in. So the first 10 to 15 minutes, because I'm like, well, and I enjoyed him. I enjoyed the character on Jessica Jones. I thought there was a lot going on there that they could flesh out. When we leave him Jessica Jones, he's kind of sullen and, sort of shaken by what's happened to him, much in the same way she was, after her Kilgrave encounter. When we see him in Luke Cage, he's all happy and he's got like 5 jobs like Ed Norton in Fight Club, and he's running around. And it's just like, it was jarring in the sense that I'm like, when is this supposed to have taken place? Is this before? Because right now I believe this is prior to Jessica Jones. Like, why does he have all these weird odd jobs all of a sudden? He owned a bar, for God's sake. And so it's like, that was confusing. And once I got further into it, it kind of made more sense. But just at the outset, it was weird that they didn't take greater care to sort of tie those together in a more obvious way. And,
Well, yeah. And I felt the same confusion when I started watching it. I was sure for several episodes that it happened before Jessica Jones. And it just but anyway, so my bigger point there that I keep losing is Luke Cage starts in the middle of things and then does this awesome job of telling his origin story within an episode.
Oh, so that's okay.
So when they do that, like the episode right before that, it's basically like, it is a beautiful like build up to this. And when they finally tell that story, which is done through flashbacks, but not like in quick flashbacks, like in major flashbacks, where you'll sort of see the present action, which isn't very much, and then that present action will tie into a scene from the past, kind of like, okay. He's lifting something in the present, and there'll just be a cut where he's lifting something in the past, or he's getting punched or whatever. And so, but it tells that story, and it does such a good job of like not doing anything corny with, with like alerting you that it's the past, but anchoring you in the past and letting you, just kind of absorb this story, which is really, really interesting. It's not a stupid, like the moment of him becoming Luke Cage is like many superheroes. It's like an accident of kind of chemistry and, an overload of some scientific experiment thing. But it's not like that's the first thing that happens. It's not like a Daredevil story where there's an accident and then they have to spend however long explaining how he develops his senses, It's like when he becomes Luke Cage, that's sort of the end of the story. It's like,
oh, interesting.
The background of like how he got to that moment is so much more interesting than the actual moment of him becoming superpowered.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then there is such an awesome callback to his Power Man costume from the comics. Like it's
okay.
like
Spoil it, because I don't know if I'm going to get through the rest of it. So I am curious.
Well, I think I can explain it without actually having to spoil any details from it.
Okay.
But if you remember his costume in the comics, at least like the classic sort of 80s and 70s, he's wearing this yellow shirt and he has these like sort of Wonder Woman wristbands that are like these metal wristbands, and then he has this weird metal headband, and his yellow shirt is always like open to the navel, and he's like always in this kind of like Hulk sort of pose.
It's kind of blaxploitation. I mean, honestly,
yeah, definitely. I can't remember if I know there's so many things of him like breaking chains that way, but
yeah, or whipping around a chain. He's wearing a chain on like a belt or something.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, it's just because of the scientific experiment that he is put under. He's strapped down, and so there's this moment where he, when he survives the experiment, and it sort of knocks out or kills everybody else in the room, but he survives. So it's like he doesn't really realize. I'm sure he's aware of it, but it's like he's trying to escape. So it's not like his first moment is to like unstrap himself from all the stuff they've strapped on him. So when he just kind of breaks free, he's still got the like wrist guards on that they had strapped him down with, and the headband on that they've strapped him down with.
Oh, interesting.
And so it's like, it just, it's sort of like when he stands up, you're like, holy shit, he's in the costume. And then there's just this great moment where he, he's naked and he's got to grab clothing, and he, there's like a classic, like, there's somebody drying their laundry outside, and he grabs the shirt and he pulls it on, and then he sees its reflection, and it's this yellow shirt that he hasn't buttoned up yet, and he's got the wristbands on. So you're seeing it like as he's seeing it in a reflected in a car window.
Oh, that's
and
great.
It's just like such a perfect comic book frame of that image. I mean, it was just like, I'm sorry that this is such a stupid word, but it was just delightful. Like I was like,
that's great.
I was like, I love this.
Yeah.
But he obviously doesn't like keep those things. It's just that one, and we've seen things like that done in other superhero origins, where there's a nod to the old.
Well, they had a really good one in Jessica
something.
Jones too, where she's like, "How about this?" She's like, "I look like a stripper," and she's like, "No, like you're like her friend Patsy makes her the costume, like the Gem costume." And Jessica Jones, she's like, "You could be Gem." She's like, "Gem sounds like a stripper name. That costume looks ridiculous." So they have it out. She doesn't put it on, but it's like, there it is.
Was that something Jessica Jones wore?
Yeah.
There's other superhero name or whatever it was.
In the comic, she is she's for a phase. She, like, when she first gets her power, she goes by Gem, and she's got like this costume that they literally wheel out in its full glory.
Yeah. It's it's like a Marvel thing. It's like Stan Lee showing up. It's kind of like
it really is
cutesy thing, but the rhythm of it, and especially with such, I mean, that episode is so emotionally exhausting that just to have one little break of levity is really fun, and it's like, it's a superhero show. Like I love that. So that's a very, very long way to answer how it answers the Jessica Jones problem, which is, although there's like, another problem I can talk about in the storytelling of it, it gives us that origin in such a satisfying way that, to me, it didn't feel like there was sort of a lull where, and maybe that's what it was maybe in Jessica Jones, when she goes to, live with Kilgrave. I almost hesitated, like I'm spoiling it. It's a year old now. Yeah. But like when she goes to live with Kilgrave, I guess I thought, like there is background there that's like her childhood home or something. But I guess I expected an episode like that where it would just sort of flash back and tell us in full the whole story. And instead we get a lot of Kilgrave's backstory. I'm kind of just remembering this now.
You know what? You just hit on something that I never realized. The whole of Jessica Jones is less about her and more about Kilgrave's journeys from start to finish, and she's kind of like our avatar into that world. So and maybe that's why he was so. David Tennant's a brilliant actor, and that was like the perfect role for him in that situation. But I think we sort of attuned to it more because of that. And I really wonder if they didn't sort of self-sabotage for any kind of Jessica Jones season 2. Because I'm like, what are you going to do now? Like I mean, we had a whole season, and we got a lot of character depth from her, but not as much as him. We got a lot from him.
True. And I'm realizing this as I was saying it to you. It's not like I've been thinking about that all year. I'm just now realizing that.
Like, you say it, it's like, damn.
Because that really is what I feel. Like as much as I felt for her struggles, like within the show, and what she'd gone through with Kilgrave the character, it's like I kind of came out of it feeling like I still don't really know Jessica Jones. Yeah. Luke Cage, you feel like I know this guy. Like this is a three-dimensional human being. So yeah, I mean, we don't need to spend too much time talking about it. I think it's great. I'll tell you what I think is the problem with it is the first 5 episodes to me are like amazing. When you and I talked the other day, I said this is the best like 2 or 3 movies that Marvel has made. Like, and I don't mean to like top, the Iron Man, like the first Iron Man, and I don't really, literally believe that. Those are much more exciting and stuff, but it's just, they're just so good and they're just so well made. But after about mid-season, there's a really there's a real dramatic moment. There are several dramatic moments, like sort of all in a row. It feels very climactic, but it kind of takes the wind out of it's like this thing is just a train building steam, and then this stuff happens, and I know in my head, and maybe this is like a writerly way to look at it or something, or just the way I analyze stuff like that. I felt like, the act turn, there's like an act break basically. And I guess I was confused because I was like, I thought we were already in the next act. And you just sort of communicate, like just sort of took all the wind out of that act and reset the table.
Well, you know what? That happens in episode 2. So keep in mind, I've only watched episodes 1 and 2, and then I was kind of like, But there's something that happens in episode 2. A major character dies. And you're like, wait, what? And like in Daredevil, that may have lasted until episode 8 or 9, or Jessica Jones. So that right away they kind of pull the rug out from under you. Then where you're just like, wait, what? That person's not part of it anymore. Like what?
I don't want to spoil who that is or anything, but it's interesting to me that you were so attached to that character. I mean, I was too in a way, but not. It's one of those things where you're like, I kind of see this coming.
You did? Okay, because
you did.
That character probably. I mean, it would have
just in a sort of typical way of like he was gonna
go at some point. I figured that, but I'm like, wait, and then the way it happened was so weird and I was like, okay, well that's off-putting, but all right.
And so maybe the way to. Like one thing I would say to you, like if you want to give it another chance, one of the really wonderful things it does, especially through those next 3 episodes after that, is it tells the story of all the characters who are involved in that scene. Basically, the sort of setting of Luke Cage is that, and we're thinking it happens after the events of Jessica Jones. He has, I guess, moved to Harlem. Or actually, I guess he's sort of anchored in Harlem anyway, because his wife, whom we have met in Jessica Jones, because Jessica Jones flashes back to her death, right? So we know that has happened, and he is now in Harlem. Whether back in Harlem or whether that's where Jessica Jones takes place, I'm not really sure. I'm sorry, but he's not originally from Harlem. He came to Harlem because of his wife, and so he starts working in his wife's father's barbershop. I believe that's her father.
Interesting.
And
Pop
so
is her dad. Oh, okay. I missed that entirely.
I think so. I think that's how he's saying it. Yeah. Because he talks about how she came back with this son-in-law. That's
you're right. Yeah. I thought she was talking about somebody else, but yeah, you're right. That's
why he's with this guy that he's not related to, and he's sort of like in the neighborhood where there's all these people that grew up together, and so this is what I think is really wonderful. First of all, there's a ton of generations of them. Like there's an older generation, there's sort of Luke's generation, and then there's a younger generation, all represented. And then those 3 stories that the next 3 episodes after, like 3, 4, 5, where we're learning more about Luke's like his origin story. We also learn about his whole family and the relation of all of these people, and that is what I think is so amazing. Like in episode 3, there's a big social like community event where you see the gangster who's got so much personality. So there's a gangster named Cottonmouth, and his cousin Mariah is a city councilwoman.
And that's Alfred. That's
Alfred Woodard. Yeah.
Okay. By the way, let's real quick interjection. Alfred Woodard. Jesus Christ. Woody Guthrie she plays a character in Captain America: Civil War, who's in it for like
that's what I thought. Wait, but is that really?
It's not the same character, is it? I mean, it can't be.
No. But
she broke the cardinal Marvel rule of like you can never play the same character in the Marvelverse, which then makes me wonder: are they getting closer to just saying, you know what, the movies are the movies and the shows are the shows, and never the twain shall cross? Like,
yeah, it's definitely a totally different character. That's funny because I questioned that. I was like, didn't I see her in a Captain America movie?
She looks great, though. Can I just say that, too, man? She is like 65, and she looks older than...
Are you serious?
40. Yeah. She's born in 52,
Wow.
so she's got to be like 64, 65.
Well, so there's just to me that's that's just one of the many things that's great about Luke Cage is first of all there's the her character Mariah and her cousin. So she's a councilwoman who for the first half of the show or even more, I think it's like way into like deep into the series before her loyalties kind of really emerge. And that first half, you're really on the fence. Like, I think she's got some gangster past, but she's trying to be a good person. She just kind of came up in this family that was like there's a Harlem gangster that led it, a matriarch actually that led this family. That was kind of the crime queen, and so then her child was Mariah, and her sister's child or brother's child was Cottonmouth, or he becomes nicknamed Cottonmouth. He's Cornell. There's another gangster you meet named Diamondback. So there's all these like snake names,
Was Fish Mooney the matriarch? That's all I keep thinking of when you said that. It's like, I am Fish Mooney, and and then this just kind of dovetails off of Gotham. That actually legitimizes Gotham in a weird way. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, it's that story of the families and how everyone's interrelated is like it really makes it a neighborhood story, and that's what I thought was just. I mean, that's just one. Like I said, it's just one of the things that makes it feel so cool because it's like, oh, there. I mean, this really is that. That it's not like. It's not like Kilgrave, like the stranger comes to town and causes problems. It's like these are the same problems that they've been dealing with literally their entire lives.
Wow.
As they all kind of gain and rise and fall in power. It's just all the struggles. And Luke has been in it, but there's just a moment where Pop, his father-in-law, really puts the pressure on him. Like, you have these abilities and you're just going to stand by and not do anything. And that really it changes the whole tone of his journey. It's like there's a thing that Pop says, like, it's always forward, so that becomes like the theme. Like he repeats that. Luke repeats that several times, like always forward, and it's very cool. But my problem is that sort of in the later third of the season, like after the big climax happens where you realize like, it's just kind of a typical superhero movie where a climax happens and the characters are left kind of low, and then there's like two more climaxes after that, and you're like, no, that's not it's like Man of Steel. It's like, dude, just destroy the machine thing and then we're done. Like, you don't have to have another battle with them after that or whatever.
I see what you mean.
Or the Batman Superman thing where there's I don't know, it just felt like there's a pretty big struggle going on, and then all of a sudden there's also this other struggle that we've got to deal with, and then there's going to be another thing where we try to get Luthor.
It's way too This is why Daredevil season 1 was so good, because it was very simple. It built up to a final climax. It was satisfying, and then that was it. And you're like, great, perfect.
And it's cool in Luke Cage because of the emotions we feel for the characters, that when they remove a couple of those characters, you feel that void. But it's bad because it's like, you remove those characters. So I did feel like, a couple of people who are no longer in the show at this point were really, really entertaining me, whether I hated them or loved them. So
there's more characters to die as this thing goes on, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I'm not. I mean, don't
spoil it. Don't say.
Yeah, I'm not trying to spoil. I was going to say it doesn't necessarily have to be a death. It's just sort of their removal from the story.
Oh, so they could just peace out and just move on to.
In one of the cases, I mean, it's a death, and it's like. So I get where they were going with that, and I never think they drop the tone. That nothing ever fails as far as like the tone and the tension. It's just, to me, it could have been an awesome 8-episode show, and it's not like Jessica Jones where it repeats something for a couple episodes. It's just that it decides to go into like another act, and I just felt like So that said, the ending of it is a really smartly written like reversal of fortunes.
Oh, interesting.
Even though there is a a sort of nominal, like not, I mean, it's more than nominal. It's a huge, significant sort of victory for, the good guys, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But the way it actually ends, everything is kind of fucked up.
Oh,
and the way they pull it off is just really interesting because it's not like a dark turn, it's not like you're on a cliffhanger in like a Game of Thrones kind of way.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like you sort of get the emotional payoff of both things. And I'm sorry that I have to be so vague about it. I don't want to spoil anything, but you get the payoff of sort of, the big final confrontation. You get the payoff you want, but then you're also like, but wait, the circumstances now, like it's just very, very cool. And the way that it deals with
Can I venture a guess as to what it might be, and you tell me if I'm hot or cold?
Sure.
And this is literally based on what happens in Jessica Jones and how these things tie together. Does he get captured by whatever creates his abilities and like basically gets dragged back to like I have this vision of him like sacrificing himself for somebody else, and that sacrifice means he's got to get taken back to the lab, and they're gonna like work on him again or like try to like siphon his power away or something, but he knows it'll be okay eventually or something. It's something like that.
No.
Okay.
Cold.
Right.
Cold.
Okay. Good.
Cold.
Good.
Definitely cold. Yeah. There's not. I mean, that's that's what's so cool about it is there's not that feeling of like sacrifice. It's like you feel like this is a really earned victory.
Great.
But so much of the show. One of the other great things about it is like just in addition to like how these characters are interrelated, and you feel like these are the lives they were all leading. Like as I said, as their individual lives sort of rose and fell, they were always interconnected. It's centered in Harlem, and there is so much good stuff in there about race and politicians and policing. And of course, you and I started this podcast after a conversation about how I think the Avengers movies are just like propaganda films about how like Tony Stark ruins everything, and then he has to buddy up to the government to like cover his mistakes. And
wow, episode 0, season 0.
I know.
Man. Wow.
And
way back.
So to this and Jessica Jones too, but this especially. Is like this is the Marvel I want to see, which is like real world superheroes dealing with real problems, but in a real way. Like in the movies of Marvel, it's I'm constantly in the movies going, dude, don't trust S.H.I.E.L.D. at all, at all. Yeah. And then like finally, like in Winter Soldier, it's revealed that S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra are the same thing, and it's like, yeah, no shit, dude. Like of course they were. That sort of concentrated secretive power is always bad.
Well,
but it's hard but it is sort of abstract. They're flying in these helicarriers that are like giant, aircraft carriers that fly around the earth, and they have these global satellite protection systems and Ultron and all that shit. And Luke Cage is like, no, there's a local councilwoman. Yeah. And she's trying to pitch safe streets in Harlem, which is something that like, who would argue against that? But she has this tension of like her cousin is the biggest gangster in Harlem. Yeah. And it's just there's so many great like cool history nuggets and stuff. Like Cottonmouth's first headquarters is a building that's named after Crispus Attucks.
He was like a black slave, like the first free.
He was the first person killed in the Boston Massacre.
That's right.
And considered to be I'm going off a quick Google search. Considered to be the first casualty of the Revolutionary War. But yes,
because Luke Cage actually said, like, he gives like a little monologue where like, do you know who he was?
Yeah. So like he's staring at the headquarters, and this kid tries to stick him up. Like he's staring at this. I think we're supposed to believe it's like an old school that's named after Crispus Attucks.
But real quick, so back to that same point. It worries me then that Marvel TV and Marvel movies are, when
diverging.
When Kevin Feige kind of assumed power, the guy, and I forget the guy's name at Marvel, who was sort of head of everything, and then Kevin Feige had
Avi Arad.
but Kevin Feige had to report to him. But that guy has remained in charge of Marvel TV.
Oh, that's not the same.
No, it's like a different guy. It's like Saul something. It's like some old timey, agent sounding name. And apparently he's, what Kevin Feige was just tired of being under his thumb on the movie side of things. So it makes me worried that there are two different groups essentially in charge of the TV side and the movie side, specifically the Netflix TV side, the movie side.
Well, but
and the other thing is too,
Shield. I mean, I guess that wasn't Netflix, but Agents of Shield, I thought was a pretty direct tie into the movies, right?
It was, but you can't. But no one from Agents of Shield is going to be showing up on these Netflix shows, and so I worry, and especially you kind of nailed it, like. This isn't Ultron and giant airships flying around. This is a councilwoman trying to, do something. It's going to be really hard for them to. I really don't see how they get these guys into Infinity War in any way, shape, or form. Like
I find that kind of hard. Yeah,
are way too small on these shows. Like, and the same token, like, are we ever going to see Kingpin show up in the Spider-Man movies? I don't know, man.
But to me, I don't even. That's such a funny irony because one of my complaints, and I think one of yours too, is that sometimes in those movies the stakes are so high that we're not emotionally invested at all.
Yeah.
And so they feel bigger in Luke Cage because it's all local,
Yeah.
And it's like these are stakes I relate to, like a conversation between a woman with ties to the mob who's a politician, where she's making a deal with the cops to like try to come up with super weapons that can kill Luke Cage, the superhero, like to defend themselves against other superpowers. That's so much more real than Tony Stark, discovering some new element that can power this space shield to keep out aliens. It's like, dude,
Hey, on that same note though, I've been Googling as we've been talking about this very thing. Apparently Hammer Industries gets name checked in Luke Cage eventually. Yep. So there's one more. So that if
I was just gonna bring that up.
Well, but what's his face? God, who played Justin Hammer?
Rockwell. Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell. He doesn't pop up in this, does he?
No, I really wanted to see his orange fingers appear again.
Like, I mean, even for a minute, he could have leaned in. I don't even know the context in which Hammer Industries appears, but he could have leaned in and talked to Alfred Woodard or whoever it was that was in charge of getting this.
To me, it all works because it's like it's a nod to that. Like they just mention. Actually, I don't even know if they mention it. No, he does say the name. I was thinking like maybe it's one of those things where it's just written.
Yeah, but at the same time, too, the CEO of a major of Lockheed Martin is not going to get involved personally with a local councilwoman. So that does make sense, actually.
But I think of it as like in I think it's in Dark Knight Rises where we see a LexCorp, basically like a Lex Luthor Corp trucks or something.
Wait, what?
I believe that happens even in the Christopher Nolan films. I believe there's some LexCorp stuff in those.
Really?
Maybe?
No, there's a Wayne Industries satellite that falls down in Man of Steel.
That's true.
Subtle reference. I don't remember seeing LexCorp stuff in Batman and the Nolan stuff though. I mean someone out there, someone listening, check us on this because that's now I'm going to be really. I don't want to have to go back and rewatch Dark Knight or Dark Knight Returns just for that. But anyway, so here's
well, to me it just felt like they're just saying it's in the universe. It's not.
Yeah, fair enough. But is it enough connective tissue for them to ever pull these guys or these characters into Avengers stuff at some point? I don't really. I think they would kind of lose the punch of no pun intended of Luke Cage if they did that, where it's like. What makes it so effective is all that like interpersonal drama and that it's down on that's kind of a funny thing because we've mentioned in both Jessica Jones and this that like they mentioned the incident, meaning the Avengers like destroying New York. In the first Avengers movie, that is the incident. Like
yes, that is the incident. Yeah. The Chitauri, yeah. And so in Luke Cage, there's like a kid on the street like, I got the best DVDs of the incident, get your DVDs here. And but it definitely, I just get this feeling of like this is a street level show, and the Avengers is like a sky level show. You know, you're at the top of Stark Tower and all that kind of stuff. So it's just I don't know. That's all the great stuff, and all the the race relations, and the couple times where they talk about like the world doesn't want to see a bulletproof black man in a hoodie. It's like, God damn it, this is anchored in this moment. Don't bring the Chitauri into this. So yeah, that hopefully that sums it up. Oh well, my last period on that sentence is the music is fucking phenomenal. And I thought of a second last point, but the music, seriously, like I will buy this soundtrack. I'm pretty sure that the Delphonics appear. I think there's like a reference to Delphonics. I think that's actually the Delphonics that I see on the stage rehearsing in this club. Like it is. Wow. I mean, it's like when you joked about Fish Mooney, and she has that club in Gotham. But it always feels like a soap opera kind of thing, where this feels like, no, this is like if Quentin Tarantino, sorry to bring up that name, that's so stupid, but I mean, it's like the music is, if he were doing a movie like this, he would put the fucking Delphonics in it. Like they would be on stage. And that's just what, like, that's the level of detail that's in this series, Yeah, so there's something on Nerdist. I just did a quick Google that tells all the musicians who actually appear in this. That's totally worth checking out. Just listening to music on YouTube. The second thing I was going to say the second final point was when you're talking about how do they tie it into everything, or how does Feige or whoever put this together, my understanding from the little I've read about Luke Cage was that this is one of those great things that we love about Netflix, which is I think one guy pretty much developed this, and like the creator, his name is Ichio Hodari Coker. Sorry if I mispronounced any of those three names, but I think from what I read that it was sort of like like it this is the auteur that gets to decide how everything goes.
Gotcha. For this specific show.
Right. But I heard the same thing about Jessica Jones, because I remember who that showrunner was. I cannot remember. I mean, I can't remember.
She's been in a bunch of stuff.
I can't remember her name.
She had a big long interview too. I forget her name too. Here's my final question to kind of wrap it all up on my side of things too. At any point, does Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall show up in prince robes and try to get a wife for Arsenio Hall before he goes back to Africa?
Well, that maybe I don't want to give the twist away. That might be the big climax that happens.
I tell you what, every time, I've only seen 2 episodes, but every goddamn time they show that barbershop, I'm just waiting for freaking Arsenio Hall to show up.
I know that I felt this sort of like, oh no, kind of feeling like when in the first, there's just something that like in the first barbershop scene, you're like, I don't know if this is going to be a corny comic relief thing or like a real just warm centered location for the story, and it turns out it's the latter. There's nothing like comic booky or nothing cartoonish about it.
No one from Sexual Chocolate's coming down to get their haircut in that barbershop.
Right. But I don't know what it was. Maybe there's like something on the back. Maybe it's just the way Pop jokes about the swear jar or something. But it's right in the first second, you're like, please don't be corny. And which is funny too, because one of the running jokes is Claire Rosario Dawson saying to Luke, like, you're so corny.
Oh, interesting.
Or whatever. Yeah, when he says,
is there any kind of love interest that happens between those two that's even hinted at?
I'll just say that she likes coffee. That was not at all. That came off so terribly from my voice, but that is a joke within the show. That was.
It is. Oh, okay.
That was not any sort of racial statement or anything. Oh God.
In case you at home are confused, Todd is not a racist.
Oh my God. No. That's like Luke's pickup line.
Oh,
like
gotcha,
in the middle of the night when he's like, "You want to get coffee?"
She's like, "No."
They're always like, "It's like 3 a.m, dude. It's drinking coffee."
Wow.
There is Luke, there's some love interest for Luke. I don't want to say who it's with.
Okay, no, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. The only reason I ask is that she keeps getting kind of dragged into these things.
Luke likes coffee. Let's say that.
Okay.
Luke, yeah,
right.
the guy.
And by that, you do it.
By that, I mean the beverage. He loves to drink coffee. Or he loves inviting people to coffee. God damn it. I fucked that up all terribly. I'm so sorry. Now you're making it worse. It is
mocha cream.
Everything about this show is so good. I would be remiss if I did not mention Misty. What's her name? Is it Misty Knight?
The cop.
Yeah. Yeah, Misty Knight, which is played by Simone Missick, and she is my favorite character. I want to watch like I don't know, Cagney and Lacey is the wrong analog for this, but I want to watch like two female detectives partnered up, and one of them is Misty Knight. I don't know who the other one is. But she, like, Simone Missick is amazing in this. Every scene with her is just so good, and I just don't even know how to describe it. Like, she's my favorite character, I think, in the whole series. I will watch her do anything. She's amazing. And then her partner.
What has she been in before that you've seen?
Well, I know I saw an article today that said that she's basically just been doing commercials for 10 years and like side parts and stuff like that. And it's like, where did she come from? She's awesome. And we haven't seen her in anything. So she's just one of those, but she came in, it's not like some young ingenue or something where we're gonna get Will Smith's daughter. Here she is. Right. Okay. She is like, the perfect age to, like I said, like there's this great generational thing in it too, where there's sort of the older generation. There's Alfre Woodard and Pop, I guess, is even older than she is, and then there's sort of this middle generation of Luke and Misty, and then there's a younger generation that's involved sort of on the side there too, and it's just. It's really well done. So
awesome. Well, I might give it another chance then. I mean,
I would say though, I told you off air that if the first 2 episodes didn't hook you, then just give up. But I think you got to get through like 3.
Okay.
And I think at 3 you're totally hooked. And and if you're still feeling like shaky about it, like I'm just telling you, like 4 and 5 are knockouts.
All right.
So
it's like rafting a boat down a dangerous river. Like, this part's gonna be great and calm, but this part's gonna be a little shaky, and it's gonna get calm and cool again, and then it's gonna be a little shaky. Yeah.
There were definitely like two episodes where I think it was 5 when I finished 5 where I went, that was the best movie the last 2 episodes were the best superhero movie I've seen all year.
All right. So that alone, I may just jump to the last 2 and just watch those and Wikipedia the rest.
Well, no. I meant like 4 and 5. Like, it was like I finished episode 5 and went, that was perfect.
Okay.
But so if you've gotten 1 and 2, you got to watch 3, 4, 5.
Okay. All right.
But watch 3. Right? That's all. That's
all right.
Yeah. Gotcha. This. Anyway, so I'll explain the. I don't have to explain the coffee thing, but. I think I probably retweeted it. This was so awesome. Whoever was running the Luke Cage Twitter account is a genius this weekend, because someone used this hashtag. The Luke Cage Twitter account retweeted someone saying, I tried watching the first episode of Luke Cage, but as soon as Luke came on the screen, my girlfriend went, So we're done with that. And so the Luke Cage Twitter account retweeted that and added their own comment that said, "She like coffee?"
That's awesome.
And that, oh my God, I was just like, I thought that was just the best. Like, that's what social media is for, man.
Yeah.
That's why you have a Twitter account called like Luke Cage. That's the official Marvel Luke Cage account. It was
when the show is on the inside track with the audience, and they're all
not an awkward, stupid joke like I made earlier that sounded like it had
Come on. You
politically incorrect implications.
Up about that. That's okay. This is Donald Trump's America. That's all fine.
Oh, God, have mercy. All right. Well, I think that sums it up for season 3, episode 1, which is now only about Luke Cage.
Yeah.
We started out with different intentions, and then I just talked a whole lot about Luke Cage. And talking about it probably made me like the show even more.
See, that's the mark of a good show, is when you just get more excited by talking about it, and you don't. It's bad when you're like, I guess that was okay, and I guess that was okay.
It will make me check out Daredevil for sure. Mm-hmm. I will go back and watch parts of Jessica Jones, and I will probably go back and watch episodes 3, 4, and 5 of Luke Cage.
They do. By the way, they do.
The end of. Sorry, I was just going to say, near the end of Luke Cage, there's this really, really subtle, it's not even, you can't even call it a joke, it's just a reference, where Luke Cage says something about needing a lawyer, or he says, "Do I need a lawyer?" And Claire Rosario Dawson goes, "I know a good one."
Well, there's another name check too, right? In episode 2, when Cottonmouth does something really crappy to one of his henchmen, and there's this other guy on the roof that's like, "I'm gonna go back to Hell's Kitchen. You mofos are too crazy up in here." It's like it's like that's all. Oh, he says that's safer than here or something.
Yeah, exactly. And and there's a tie-in too, because there's something about it being cleaned up or something like that. Yeah. So it's Anyway, that's what I'm gonna check them all out. So I hope I have spoken with this with enthusiasm and get someone else to go check it out. It's
exactly worth it. Well, from you, where can folks follow you online?
You can find me on Twitter at HeyToddA, and you can find you where?
I'm on the cyber at Taylor Trask on Twitter.
We have the best cyber. Sorry, I spoke over you. You are at Taylor Trask.
Yeah, that's right. And then where you can find us both on the cyber at there.network.
Yes, just type in there.network. And we are on Twitter at Find Us There.
That's right. Yes. Shoot.
You won't find much there, but we suggest going to there.network and following all our social profiles, where eventually we will put stuff, announcements of shows and things like that. Until next time, I'm Todd A.
I'm Taylor Trask. Bye.
Later.